While huge celebrations with dual Dokkan Fests might have been some of the most hyped times to be playing Dokkan, month-to-month Dokkan Fests are honestly some of the most overlooked units in Dokkan history. Today we'll be going over the top 10 monthly Dokkan Fests in Dokkan history. This of course excludes things like Anniversary, Saiyan Day, Tanabata/Thank You, New Year's, Worldwide Download Celebration, and Golden Week. And also I've excluded dual Dokkan Fests, even if they're on the same banner. Please note that, of course, as always, these lists are carefully calculated through a intense algorithm. And without further ado, let's get on into the list. Now, coming in at number 10, we have AGL Metal Cooler, who was very good when he came out way back of Halloween 2018. He led the Wicked Bloodline category and was designed pretty well. He could do some pretty good damage as he built up his passive with each attack he received. He could also recover a small amount of HP, and he could go into his Metal Cooler core form, provided that HP is 50% or below at the start of turn, and which I believe he can transform for either 2 or 3 turns. And essentially it's just like any other giant form where he can just attack. And he can cancel the super attacks, enemy actions, blah blah blah. What makes Orange Piccolo so broken. Of course, being a Metal, Cooler unit, these Wicked Bloodline units just have amazing link sets. And of course, Metal Cooler was the first of the continuous reoccurring units to have really just good animations. Metal Cooler here led the charge. The first unit to have the good animations was LR Goku and Frieza, but then we had STR Super Buu, so Metal Cooler, starts it all. Overall, Metal Cooler, just a good release. He's going to be good enough for number 10. Moving on to number 9. Coming in at number 9, we have another Wicked Bloodline unit, which is Physical Angel Golden Frieza. Now, back when he came out, October 2020, he was very good. He had a, somewhat okay team. Resurrected Warriors was an okay category. Otherworld Warriors has always just basically sucked. He had a good super attack effect, raises defense, seals, pretty good. He can also debuff attack and defense by 30% for 2 turns, and when he gets hit, he gets a 30% chance to dodge, along with 50% attack and defense for 5 turns. Good link set, and he could transform into Golden Frieza literally whenever. Upon transforming, he didn't get defense on his super attack effect, but he stacked in base, so it was not that big of a deal. He got 120% attack and defense start of turn, and he got, of course, a super attack on attack boost. And then he also had a 50% damage reduction, provided that HP was under 50%, which was very solid. He was very tanky back when he came out, when he had this damage reduction up. And overall, this Angel Golden Frieza was one of the better designed Dokkan Fests in this game's history, up until recently, where they just started making every unit just basically immaculate. He's also even further helped out by the fact that this banner's predecessor on Global was the New Year's Step Up banner, in which that, provided that you summoned on it, you could have gotten 600 free stones once you got your refunds back. Which of course could go straight into this banner, which Angel Golden Frieza's banner is one of the best banners ever in terms of just sheer value. He's definitely going to be good enough for number 9. Let's move on to number 8. Now coming in at number 8, we have Int Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta, coming out for Halloween of 2020. Actually, the very next Dokkan Fest after Angel Golden Frieza, I believe. He had a solid team. He led Grade 8 Power and Shadow Dragon Saga. Had a pretty good super attack effect, 50% attack and defense for the turn. And then he essentially was like a mini Tech Jiren Light, 200% attack and defense start of turn, which was crazy. He was the first Dokkan Fest to have this. Then he also got 4 key, 40% attack and defense, and super effective against all types for 8 turns. And then he had a 50% chance to counter super attacks, which was very good, but still down from the 70% chance that the Tech Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta had. But he of course also had his active skill, which could be activated after he received 4 more attacks in battle, which was, somewhat okay, in which he got 40% attack and defense, and all enemies lost 40% attack and defense for the turn. Obviously, he's a Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta unit, so his link set is crazy, and overall, there's really nothing to complain, right? He came out, he was dominant best TUR, arguably. On Global, he came out at the same time as the JP Anniversary was releasing, which was cool, right? in Super Saiyan 4 Vegeta, very hype unit, so overall it's just a very good unit. He's gonna come in at number 8. Let's move on to number 7. Now coming in at number 7 we have AGL Captain Ginyu, the first of the Dokkan Fests of the 200% meta. He led Terrifying Conquerors and Namek Saga, which was a solid team, even though he didn't really work well with it since he doesn't have big bad bosses. But the Ginyu team was very good, right? He stacked defense on his super attack effect, which was already pretty good. Was super effective against all types. He could triple super, and he was just very solid defensively. Especially once you got him, started to get him built up. His active skill could be activated, turn 4, 70% HP or less, which is when he got super crazy. He stacks attack now, recovered 59% HP, and then he built up attack, defense, and dodge chance, which was, very good. And then with a Jace on the team, he had a 50% chance to see all enemy super attacks, the Scouter, which is very, very good. The Scouter is one of the most broken abilities in the game, so obviously that's going to be good. Shocker, who would have thought? And overall, Ginyu just was super dominant. He was better than a lot of the units that came out around him. Like, he was for sure better than Raditz. While you could argue that the Golden Week units of, STR, Goku/Gohan, and AGL Cell were better than him, he definitely aged better than them. Definitely better than Interchangeable Goku and Vegeta. Aged better than Tech Pan. Like, Ginyu was really good. And it also helped that he had 2 really good banner units that dropped with him in the Int, Jason Birder, and the STR, Raccoon and Guldo, who were just really good banner units who made Ginyu just that much better. And they also easy A'd a bunch of the older Ginyu Force units, which just, it made Ginyu, the team just so good. Ginyu's gonna be good enough for number 7. Let's move on to number 6. Now coming in at number 6 we have Physical Path to Power Kid Goku. Leader skill isn't so strong. Youth, Explosion of Anger, and Dragon Ball Saga, not very good. Super attack effect being not very good is also not good. None of his super attack effects are all that crazy. They raise his attack, but okay. Now what made Path to Power Kid Goku so good is that he supported most of the units under his leader skill, which was obviously good, of a whopping 2 key and 50% attack and defense, which was very significant for the time. He also, of course, creates Rainbow Key Spheres, which is just a really good ability, especially for a Dokkan Fest to have. And then he was a nuker where he got 20% attack and defense per Key Sphere, along with 7% damage reduction per Rainbow Key Sphere. And then with 3 Key Spheres, he got 59% defense. With 5 Key Spheres, he got an additional attack with a 50% chance to be a super. And then with 7 Key Spheres, he gave all allies 8% damage reduction and crit chance, which damage reduction was something nice to have. Nothing crazy, but cool. First time a unit has ever done that. Then he has his active skill, which is really nothing all that crazy. Damage isn't great since he doesn't stack attack. His links suck, but he supports, so it's kind of offset a little bit. But yeah, Path to Power Kid Goku was very good for a while. He was the best TUR when he came out. Dominated most of the fights. He ended up kind of falling off because of, we went into the AoE meta, where all the bosses just decided they wanted to do AoE attacks. Looking at you, Int, Red Zone Zamasu. Overall, Path to Power Kid Goku is very good. Gonna be good enough for number 6. Let's enter the top 5. Now coming in at number 5, it's Physical Beerus. Now when he came out, he was, in contention for the best TUR alongside STR Cooler. He led a pretty good team, even though that he wasn't a crazy good leader because he's a Realm of Gods category ally, which with Shocking Speed as his primary key link, when Realm of Gods was mainly, you could either build it, Saiyan based, or Goku Black / Zamasu based with AGL Zamasu as the leader. And, it kind of led to weird things with him being a leader, but overall it was a good leader skill. He stacks attack on his super attack effect, which is solid. He also Rainbow Orb changed when there was a Realm of Gods category ally, which was, good when it was able to be used. And he just was a guy with really good numbers. He defended well, he did a lot of damage, and he was just very good. Great animations. He had an active skill, 70% turn 4 for the, condition. And then it gave him super effective against all types, 50% attack and defense active skill buff for the turn. Pretty good. Beerus was just kind of just a monster, right? I mean, he was the first non-Saiyan, and honestly, he might still be the only non-Saiyan to have ever gotten top grossing. I should do fact check on that, but regardless, like Beerus, top grossing, people loved him. I think he also had Cooler in his banner, which kind of helped, but he was still very, very good. He had a solid EZA, but nothing, super crazy to write home about. Beerus is going to be good enough for number 5. Let's go to number 4. Now, coming in at number 4 is STR Namek Goku, who back when he released was insane. His animations were super, super crisp, super hype, super awesome. He led a really good team. Super Saiyans playing in Namek Saga. Super Saiyans was a crazy category. In base, he was solid, had a really good link set, and then turn 3, 70% or less, he could transform into Super Saiyan, where, he stacks defense, which is very good for the time. Every time he got hit, he could activate his medium chance of guarding all attacks, and once he guarded, he had a 50% chance of performing a crit for 3 turns. And also, if he was up against an extreme physical unit, he guaranteed to get this. Also had an active skill. Oh, and also he had good links in Super Saiyan, but he also had an active skill, turn 5 from the start of battle, 50% HP or less, and it was just a 1-turn rage mode, which honestly, in reality, it kind of sucked. But it was still cool, good animation, rainbow orb change, not bad. But yeah, Namek Goku, he came out alongside Legends' first year anniversary, and this was just one of the most hype units. Honestly, it's one of the most bizarre choices for a monthly dual Dokkan Fest, right? Like a unit like Namek Goku is just, I don't want to say supersedes monthly Dokkan Fest level, but I mean, he kind of does. Especially for the time, right? Like this was the first Namek Goku that we got with the super crisp animations, and he was amazing and definitely a fan favorite unit for a long time. He's gonna come in at number 4. Moving on to number 3. Now, coming in at number 3, we have the Tech Androids. Who am I kidding? They were very, very good. Probably the only 2021 Dokkan Fest to dominate the Red Zone meta. Their leader skill was not all that great, but they had a good super attack effect. They created their own key spheres, and even though it wasn't rainbow key spheres, it still was good enough to get the job done, especially with how much stats they got from Tech Key Spheres. You really wanted Tech Key Spheres more than anything, getting 35% attack and defense per Tech Key Sphere. They got attack with 7 Key Spheres, they got defense with 8 Key Spheres. But where they got uber busted was that they nullified enemy key-based super attacks that were targeted at this character if HP was 35% or more, which is a pretty good restriction. And they would take literally 0 damage from key-based super attacks, and most of the enemies in the game were just random, generic Kamehameha, generic Key Blast super attacks, right? So, very, very good. Needless to say, they also had an active skill condition, literally facing one enemy, 35% HP or more, or just if there are 3 or more enemies. And it's a Ghost Usher, which Ghost Usher is a broken ability, one of the best in the game, so yeah. And boy, like this unit, especially on AGL Cell's team, just dunked on Red Zone Broly, Red Zone Omega. These fights that were the hardest in the game with these huge, damaging, key-based super attacks. The androids just didn't care, right? There's the STR AoE Broly that just does crazy amount of damage to all your allies. Well, they do literally 0 damage to these guys, provided you have 35% HP or more. Same thing with every other boss. Like, it was just crazy. Very ridiculous. The Tech Androids really were super good, and they were one of the most dominant units in the game during the early Red Zone meta, which is going to be good enough to get them number 3 on this list. Let's move on to number 2. Now, I'm pretty sure the top 2 are kind of obvious. Number 2 is STR Cooler. I mean, what do you want to say, bro? STR Cooler is just a dominant, and I'll stand on that. Really good leader skill. Obviously, prior to his EZA, he supported, well, he still supports post EZA too, but you get what I mean. In base, pre-EZA, he just supported, and then he had a really good active skill condition. Turn 3 against a pure hybrid Saiyan enemy. Then he transforms, and his damage is just jaw-dropping and stunning. And then he gets his EZA, and then he stacks in base. And he was pretty solid for a bit when he got his EZA. He could have been designed a bit better to age more gracefully, but he was still good. They buffed his transformation, boost category support to 2 key and 50%, and overall, his damage once he transformed just went up, and he's good. Really not much else to say about that, right? I mean, cooler, you could definitely easily argue this guy as one. Really good link set prior to the link level update, and then got even better once the link level update came out. Honestly, not really much bad to say about STR Cooler. He's just a very good unit. Shocker. STR Cooler is going to come in at number 2. And let's move on to numero uno. Coming in at number 1, it's Tech Ultimate Gohan, and now I'm just, the glazed Tech Ultimate Gohan Glazier. That is my role in this life. Greatly stacking, plus guard, equal OP. Enough said. I've seen enough. Tech Ultimate Gohan is better. Good links after the link level update. A decent transformation condition on his active skill. A somewhat solid transformation, but, for a large majority of this guy's life, especially prior to his EZA, his transformation was, pretty much useless. And then, he gets his EZA, and then he just gets bigger numbers, damage reduction, and more defense on his first turn. He gets additionals built into his kit. Once he transforms, he gets a lot more powerful. Prior to his EZA, he only got a little bit more powerful, but they definitely juiced him up through the roof. Gave him a really good super attack effect too. And overall, it's just pretty good, right? Tech Ultimate Gohan. His EZA is good, right? But it's definitely not as dominant as he was, prior to his EZA. But that just goes to show you, Tech Ultimate Gohan, he went on a run. A crazy, 3-year run of being top 10. And I'll stand on that. Tech Ultimate Gohan, number 1. Yeah, enough said. Let me know what you thought about my list down below. Whether you thought it was perfect, or if you thought someone was snubbed, or if you think that the order should have been different. But just know that if you disagree with me and the algorithm, which is factually objectively correct, you are in fact incorrect. Yeah, shocker, I know. But as always, that's gonna do it for me. Thanks for stopping by.